Alright guys, today we're going to learn how to graph a quadratic equation in standard form. So the standard form of a quadratic equation is anything in the form ax squared plus bx plus c. The graph itself makes a parabola, which is somewhat like the graph I have here over on the right. Much neater version in general. A couple things you need to know about the parabola. This parabola has a minimum point, which happens to be at the vertex. This vertex itself is at the point 2, 1. So the vertex is an ordered pair. It's a point, and it happens to be kind of what you might consider the corner of the parabola. The other thing you need to know about the parabola is very symmetric. There's an axis of symmetry that goes through the parabola right down through the vertex. And an axis of symmetry just kind of mirrors the right half of the graph onto the left half of the graph. So if you did draw a nice parabola, it should be symmetric about the axis of symmetry. And the axis of symmetry is a vertical line. So in this case, it's x equals 2, which happens to be the x-coordinate of the vertex. Always going to go right through at the vertex. Alright, so those are our main parts of the parabola. So let's see how we want to find them. Now, in general, if the a term is positive, then the graph's going to go open upwards. So if a is greater than 0, that tells us that the graph opens up. If a is less than 0, that tells us that the graph opens down. Usually pretty easy. If it's positive, it goes up. If it's negative, it goes down. Now, if you have a positive opening graph, this vertex ends up being our minimum. So if a is positive, you've got a minimum because it's the lowest point on the graph. If a is negative, you have a maximum. So if it opens up, you have a minimum point. If it opens down, you have a maximum point. Now, to actually find the vertex, you have a formula, and that's x equals negative b over 2a. And once you have your x value, you're going to find the y value by plugging in your x. So 1, you find your x, and then 2, you're going to plug in x to find y. So for instance, if we have y equals x squared plus 2x minus 4, your x value is going to be negative b. And again, a is the one in front of the x squared, so a equals 1. B is the number in front of x, so b equals 2. And the c in this case equals negative 4. So x equals negative b, so negative 2 over 2 times a, which is 1. So we end up with x to be negative 1. When we want to find our y value, we just plug it in. So negative 1 squared plus 2 times negative 1 minus 4. And from here it's order of operations. Negative 1 squared is 1, minus 2 minus 4, which ends up giving us a negative 5. Now your vertex is always an ordered pair, so you want to write it as an ordered pair. So there's our vertex. Axis of symmetry is always the x-coordinate of our vertex, so our axis of symmetry is always x equals whatever x is, which is our negative b over 2a, or in this case, x equals negative 1, because that was our x value of our vertex. We have our negative b over 2a, we already figured that out. Now, the y-intercept of any graph is where we cross the y-axis, and that happens when x equals 0. So if we plug in 0 into our normal formula, a times 0 squared plus b times 0 plus c, these all drop out and become just 0. So we end up with just c. Our y-intercept is always 0, comma, c, whatever our c value ends up being. So for our example, our c value is negative 4, so we have the ordered pair 0, negative 4. Alright, I'm going to stop here. Our next video I'll have a couple examples.